Back when Microsoft was getting ready to release the original Xbox, they knew it was an uphill battle being the new guy going up against the father of video games and the rookie who knocked it out of the park on their first try and did so well on their second that they knocked Sega out of the running. So, to prevent themselves from suffering the same fate as the Dreamcast, Bill Gates threw every last dime in his pocket at developers in order to make a metric fuck ton of Xbox exclusive games. Or at least that's how it went down in my head. For every Halo or Fable, there's a Nude or Phantom Dust, and today I'm gonna focus on the latter. Just not Phantom Dust, not yet at least. I mean, geez, look at that price. Ah yes, Pro Skater but for thrill seekers. Amped is yet another sports game. This time it's SSX, just more realistic, and exclusive to the Xbox because no shit. Yeah, something you'll quickly realize in this video is that Microsoft tried to cover any and every gaming market out there with their brand. But Amped isn't just a one-for-one carbon copy. In this game, you're an up-and-coming snowboarder focused on getting your name out there by getting high scores and impressing sponsors. The more sponsors you get, the better gear and slopes you gain access to. It makes for a much more grounded game that sets itself apart from the Pro Skater wannabes while still feeling adjacent. And something must have worked since this game had 2 sequels. Well, we must have a fucking masterpiece on our hands. Let's get into this shit. Just let me... fuck. Just... I gotta... shit. Let me hit... Come on! Come on! That was fucking bullshit. That wasn't even me. Much like any other sports game, there is a learning curve, and I understand that a part of the reason I'm failing is that I'm not great at these kinds of games. However, another reason why I'm fucking up my moves is this terrible collision detection. Half of the time I fumble a move for something that wasn't my fault, or I completely fuck up a combo only for the game to act like I landed it perfectly. Even after buying this guide and putting in 4+ hours, I still feel like there's something I'm not completely getting. It's a fine game, sure, just one that doesn't really gel with me. By the 3rd level, I couldn't force myself to keep playing the same slope over and over and over again. There's more than enough content here with the amount of goals you're given to rise through the ranks. If you like sports games, then honestly, you'll probably like this. It's got that nice 2000s energy, just a little more toned down. The soundtrack is really nice to listen to, and as per usual, the Xbox's graphical fidelity makes it very easy on the eyes, even almost 20 years after the game's initial release. Is it good? Maybe. I just know I won't be playing it anytime soon. This guidebook is cool though. Before there was Forza, there was only Quantum Redshift. This is yet another Xbox exclusive copycat. This time it was made to go toe-to-toe against PlayStation's Wipeout, even going so far as to be created by ex-Wipeout devs. Unfortunately, it's very easy to see who won that fight. Redshift is a futuristic racer with a heavy emphasis on combat. Collecting a red, blue, or green icon and pressing the corresponding button on the controller will give you a projectile weapon or a shield respectively. There is a turbo boost, but you only get a finite amount per lap, which adds a strategic element to each race, especially since you only have 2 laps and the game is fast as fuck, always keeping the player on their toes. It's a simple but really fun gameplay loop. Tracks can visually vary from snowy mountains to cyberpunk cities, but none of them feel very memorable. They all just feel like a series of winding roads with some alternative routes. Once again, I will say that this game looks fantastic. That's one thing that you can always count on with Xbox exclusives. Most of them may be glorified tech demos, but they're damn good looking. The main menu theme was also really catchy. I wonder who it's by. Well, that explains why the music is so damn catchy. Redshift has 4 game modes: Tournament, Time Attack, Quick Race, and Multiplayer, all of which are very self-explanatory. One thing to note is that you have to complete Tournament mode as each of the 8 base racers in order to unlock the other 8. Something you'll come across in each Tournament mode, which just so happens to be the most unique thing about Redshift, is the Nemesis cutscenes. They're a bit stiff, to say the least. They definitely have that early CG jank, but I appreciate that they tried to add some sort of narrative into this game. Once you beat a player's nemesis, they get unlocked and a new stage is added. The only thing is that some of these quote-unquote new stages are just a stage that was already unlocked in the game, just reversed. which is a bit of a waste. Redshift is a really good game. It lacks in character and map variety, but the gameplay and the visuals are enough to make it worth your time. Curly Monsters was trying to develop a sequel, which was apparently going to have Xbox Live implementation, but Microsoft quickly shot that idea down due to poor sales, despite the fact that a lot of people enjoyed it, including yours truly. The devs were already on their last legs, unable to pay their staff, and Microsoft's decision to cancel the sequel just sealed their fate. Ultimately, Curly Monsters only made 2 games before closing their doors. To add insult to injury, it's not even playable on the Xbox One, despite other exclusive games by defunct developers being given that luxury. Quantum Redshift is a fun, if a bit bare bones, racer that was meant to fill a void while also showing off the graphical power of the Xbox. Yeah, second verse same as the first, but I had a really good time playing it. Maybe because racing is a genre that I'm more fond of, maybe because its arcadey gameplay makes it more approachable. It's just an overall well-rounded game. Remember my childhood PS2 games video and that uncle of mine who had an original Xbox who only used it for Tiger Woods golf? Well, he also had Outlaw Volleyball, and for some reason I could never understand why my parents didn't want me to play that game, but that was multi-platform. This is Red Hot, an Xbox exclusive semi-sequel that just takes the original game and sets it in hell, and was only available at Blockbuster. Damn, you just gotta love outdated capitalist practices. There's only one map, but there's multiple game types, characters, and outfits that all have to be unlocked. Until then, you only have access to one map, one game mode, and 4 characters. The gameplay itself is fine enough. If you're into sports games, then this is definitely going to be more your thing. The biggest issue I had is that the friendly AI does little to nothing while the enemy AI feels like they're playing for their fucking lives. There's this catfight mechanic where you can play a shitty fighting game in the middle of a match in order to deplete an opposing member's special bar. However, I don't think any regular consumer rented this for the gameplay. This could have been bird watching and horny people would have played it just as long as there's some scantily clad 6th generation jiggle physics. One of the only good things about this game is Steve Carell as the announcer. But even then, his jokes are shit.
Holy guacamole with frijoles and ravioli.
Nigga, you gotta be ashamed of yourself, nigga. Real talk, you gotta be ashamed of yourself. All that you is.
As many issues as modern titles may have, there's at least a higher expectations for what games should be, even if they're just made for horny people. Senran Kagura, Neptunia, Galgun, visual novels often have both hentai scenes and a good story. Even the DOA spin-offs have minigames and shit. Here, you get one volleyball court and an AI that will kick your ass. I don't think I'm stepping on anybody's toes by calling this game trash, and if I am, you'll get over it. Fucking Outlaw. Outlaw Volleyball Red Hot. It's like misogyny, just with more steps.
Game system now has the ultimate holiday offer. Get Tetris Worlds and Star Wars and Clone Wars, 2 months of Xbox Live and an Xbox for only what? Rated E to T. Xbox. It's good to play together.
Gunvalkyrie is a third-person shooter where you exterminate interplanetary aliens as either an Irish anime girl or prototype Gladio from Final Fantasy XV. It was developed by Smilebit, who's best known for Jet Set Radio and Panzer Dragoon Orta. Gunvalkyrie was originally in development for the Dreamcast, and must have gotten pretty far in development since there's an entire trailer made for it. It was even going to have a unique control scheme of using a light gun and a controller simultaneously, but focus shifted to the Xbox when the Dreamcast went under. Thank God. That control scheme sounds like a fucking pain just by imagining it. The setup of this game is all about trying to find a missing scientist by visiting all these planets that have been infested with giant bugs. There are reports that you can read about the investigation into the missing scientist, but they're a fucking bore. Not even the spectacular menu music can make this shit bearable. So the story is a bit of a bust, but the game itself is very fun. Not a big fan of steampunk, it reminds me too much of Wild Wild West. But the art design in this game is fantastic. If I'm being completely honest, I bought this game solely for the box art, and I was not disappointed. For a 2002 game that was originally made for the Dreamcast, it still looks really good. A straight C student. It's like high school all over again. The idea behind the gameplay is solid, but the execution, while still really fun, is a bit unrefined. You're constantly killing the same aliens, platforming is a bit more difficult than it should be. Every jump I make feels like a fluke, and all this is piled on top of controls that are a bit difficult to get used to. The game has tank controls. It's not full Resident Evil 1, more so Resident Evil 4, where the camera changes your aim while your entire body is controlled with the left analog stick. The right analog stick does the 6th generation thing where it immediately snaps back to the center once you let go, which makes lining up a shot a bit more difficult than it needs to be. It's like a lot of other Smilebits games. I love the visuals and the soundtrack, but the gameplay is definitely an acquired taste. I do appreciate that this game has 2 different characters for players to choose in between, as opposed to different difficulty options. Haven't really seen that in many games, and it's an interesting addition. As I said before, the music is fan-fucking-tastic, which isn't surprising considering that one of the composers, Tatsuyuki Maeda, also composed Sonic 3. Once you get used to the game's unique clunk, it's kind of hard to put the game down. Even when I died, I wanted to jump right back in. Despite all the issues I may have, Gunvalkyrie is easily my favorite game in this video, but we're not quite done going down this rabbit hole quite yet. If McDonald's got those really cool OVAs, then Burger King gets these. In 2006, Blitz Games, known for developing another Xbox exclusive Fusion Frenzy, collaborated with Burger King to release a trilogy of exclusive Xbox games available at American Burger King locations for only $4. The catch was that there were both original Xbox as well as Xbox 360 versions of the game on the same disc. Yeah, those weird 360 games and Xbox One cases are just another part in this weird pattern. This also predates Xbox's smart delivery by 14 years or so this trilogy kind of made history in more ways than one, but that comes later. The 3 games ended up being Big Bumpin', I can't say Big Bumpin' without fucking laughing. Big Bumpin', Sneak King, and Pocket Bike Racer, essentially covering 3 different genres for $4 a piece. I guess we'll start off with the one, the only, Big Bumpin'. It's essentially Mario Party for people who hate themselves. I was surprised to see that there was a character creator, only for me to find out that it's more like a color selector, allowing you to add or remove diversity as you see fit. The game itself consists of party games with bumper cars, hockey, deathmatch, shock ball, and power surge. And that's about it. There are tournaments, but after about an hour of playing, I wanted to call it quits. Not only do the controls feel like shit, but the AI is completely broken. The 2-on-1 matches are more of a 3-on-1 since the friendly AI actively puts the puck into your own goal, which is pretty much what I'd expect for a game that's sold with a Whopper Jr. Big Bumpin' is easily the worst game I've played for this video. Even Outlaw Volleyball was semi-competent. The games are boring, there's nothing to really unlock, and the AI makes for an extremely easy or impossible match. Fuck this game. Sneak King is a stealth game with a not-so-clever title. You basically walk around an open-ish area and accept missions, like Pro Skater 4. I feel so fucking bad for making that comparison. Each mission is varying degrees of sneaking around and delivering food to hungry people before they pass out. Why is the king sneaking? I don't know, but it's fucking creepy. The only reason I can come up with why is that the king isn't wearing a hard hat. I can't wait for the sequel, King vs. OSHA. Apparently this game is based on an ad campaign with a similar premise that ran around that time period. That's because Sneak King was the game that Burger King had complete creative control over, and because of that, there were a few rules that Blitz had to follow. The king couldn't be in danger, which is why there are no enemies in the game, and no characters could ever become the king. You'd expect this kind of treatment with Mickey Mouse and not the man who's known for selling foot lettuce. Microsoft even rushed the games through QA. I don't know why. Maybe the king made a generous donation to Bill Gates' pocket. All I know is that it led to some interesting results. The king glitched from the fucking box into the truck, and now the game crashed. What the fuck? Snake King is a functional stealth game, but even that statement is kind of incorrect. There's more areas in the game, like downtown and a suburban cul-de-sac, but I'm frankly never gonna get there because this game is just monotonous. The king moves really slow, targets can't see what's right in front of them, but the game works. Sometimes, which leaves Pocket Bike Racer, my favorite of the bunch. But even then, that's like comparing a car accident to the fucking Hindenburg. AKA, it's still very much shit. This has gotta be one of the jankiest fucking racing games I've ever played in my whole life. Pocket Bike is incredibly picky on what's out of bounds and what isn't. If I do a jump that skips a part of the track, even if I land where I'm supposed to go, I'm reset, which puts me all the way in 8th. There's multiple game types like Destruction Derby and Ultimate Cone Trial, but it's pretty much just a racing game. My issue is that there's only 5 tracks, meaning that this game is like Cell Damage, just with a lot less variety and shit. At least in that game, the levels are somewhat open, were built to be fast-paced, and didn't break half of the time. The tracks in Pocket Bike were obviously built for racing specifically, and the extra modes were an afterthought. They all feel clunkier than the standard racing mode, which is saying a lot. The character creator still consists of just changing colors, but hey, at least this time you can play as underpaid employees. Whoever finishes first gets promoted from $9 an hour to $9.20. You can even play as Brooke Burke, who's the star on the cover of the game and was apparently the king's girlfriend at the time? What the actual fuck was going on in the 2000s? If they took all the work that they put into Brooke Burke's ass and put it into the rest of the game, then maybe Pocket Bike Racer would be worth your time. As it is, comparing it to any other racing game on the system feels like an unfair match, but at least I didn't hate it as much as the others. It's probably just the Stockholm Syndrome talking. And so why am I even mentioning these games? Well, that's because the Burger King Trilogy collectively sold 3.2 million copies, making them some of the best-selling original Xbox games ever. All 3 games were released on the same day as Marvel Ultimate Alliance for the Wii, Red Steel, Trauma Center Second Opinion, and Twilight fucking Princess, only for Burger King to wipe the floor with all of them. Within 4 weeks, 2 million of the 5 million copies produced were already sold. To be fair, all 3 games were counted as one, and each of the 3 games were sold for $4 a pop, while the other games released that year were the full price $50 to $60. So the comparison is a bit unfair, but that doesn't change the fact that Burger King's shallow attempt at selling more, what else do they have, chicken fries, should have faded into obscurity but ended up making history. And for that very reason, I will always give it some respect. At least as much as I can give Big Bumpin', which isn't very much at all. In the end, it felt like Xbox really wanted to make a mark on gaming. Like, all of it. They had JRPGs, shooters, racers, Burger King, AAA, AA, whatever the fuck brute force is. Lots of these games were made by both well-known established studios as well as up-and-comers in the industry. The sad part is that very few of these franchises and studios are fortunate enough to exist in the modern day. But it's still interesting seeing what else Microsoft published that underperformed so fucking badly that they just pretend like it never happened. It would be interesting to get an Amped 4 or a Gunvalkyrie 2, especially since Xbox isn't particularly known for their first-party games anymore. But that does not mean that there aren't any whatsoever. There's still a ton of exclusives that I need to talk about, for both the original Xbox and the generations following it. Needless to say, I'll be returning to Team Green. Eventually, give me some time. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this stroll down memory lane. Like, subscribe, and all that jazz. I'll catch you guys next time. Later, kids. Have a good night.
From the makers of Dead or Alive comes the greatest action game of all time, Ninja Gaiden. Rated M for mature. Unleash your inner ninja.
Oh, I'll take a pound of that.
Xbox, it's good to play together.